Yeah,
such a good
so
massage.
they said you might lose your arm and it may never work again. So what did you do for yourself to get yourself back?
Well, again, remembering that teacher, I'm like, not gonna be her. So I was and again, the contraption I had on my arm, it was like this plastic with a metal thing that kept me at 90 degrees. And they were telling me, try to massage it and straighten it, try to massage it, straighten it. That way it locks it in place. And so every day I'd have my best friend massage it as much as I could, even though it hurt, and just straighten it. And then I would do rehab. I mean, I was like, I remember trying to open my fingers, I couldn't open them. And it's so weird how your mind is trying to do one thing and your body's not doing what you're asking it to do, which is really scary. The thing I had little contraptions, like little cranes that would hold my fingers open. And I could close it, I just couldn't open it because that radial nerve was damaged. And I was going to retreats, I was going to Bible study. I mean, I will say, not, I would never kill myself 'cause I'm not that person. But I will say, you get into that dark depression where you're like, why me? Why this? Why that? And there was a time I was pretty broken. I was going through a lot. And I lived in the city I worked. Um, and I didn't have any of the officers come visit me. And it kind of really bugged me because I'm thinking this is the time I needed someone around. And I remember sitting there and I opened my Bible, which normally is in my bedroom, and this time it was on my coffee table. And I kept like saying, God, why? Like seriously, why am I here? And at that point, I opened it up to Jeremiah 29:11. And I don't remember scriptures all the time, but that's one I will remember. And it basically says God has a plan and it's not for us to understand. And at least not right now, but it's something for us to prosper. And I looked at it as okay. And then next thing I opened it to another chapter was God's not going to give you more than you can handle. I opened it to another one. I said, this too shall pass. And I was like, okay, God, I got it. I got it. I really felt like God was talking to me. And so at that point, I used all my negative stuff that I was going through in my life and made it positive. And at that time, I was in the gym twice a day. I was again going to rehab. I was doing rehab at home. I was massaging. I was, going to women's retreats. I was going to Bible study. I did a little bit of everything. And literally having God in my life is what really helped me through all this because if I didn't have God, I think I would be broken right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of officers across the country, first responders that they have to find their flavor, right? You got to find what's going to work for you coming back from a traumatic incident, and 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 that's also in the veteran community as well. But you found faith, and and that's what helped you. And that day that when you opened up the Bible, that's what helped bring you back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how people don't believe in God because seriously, it was weird. I was 21 when I first became a police officer. I had a dream, and it's so weird that my mom and my best friend can vouch for me. In this dream, I was on the Santa Monica Pier, and I ended up getting shot by this suspect. And it was funny because it was behind the arcade, but the guy had first had a comb, and then became a knife, and then became a gun, and I'm struggling with him with it, right? But it was a totally different situation. It wasn't even what happened on the pier. And next thing you know is the gun goes off and, like, part of my head gets blown off, and I remember being on a gurney, and I remember going towards this light, and I remember saying, "I don't wanna die, I don't wanna die." And I was crying in my dream, and I remember my dad's voice saying, "It's not your time, don't worry, it's not your time." And when I woke up, I literally had tears in my eyes. I've never had a dream where it felt so real and literally had tears in my eyes. At the time, I was engaged, and I told my ex-fiance, I'm like, "Hey, I had this really bad dream." He's like, "Ah, just go to bed." So next thing you know, in the morning, I tell my mom, I tell my best friend what happened, and they're like, "Oh, maybe it's just your dad trying to warn you, just be careful." Years later is when this whole thing on the pier happened, and my best friend calls me that day at the hospital. She's like, "Do you remember that dream?" I'm like, "Yes, I remember that dream." She goes, "Maybe it's just your dad that saved you?" So it's kind of interesting how things happen.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yes, he does.